I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lethal Venom podcast. This is a show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Gary DeFranco. He is a TV executive producer living in Las Vegas who was originally from Cleveland, Ohio. He's worked with the UFC for 20 years and has produced almost 40 seasons of The Ultimate Fighter, as well as produced TV shows for the Playboy Channel, Discovery Channel, Spike, ESPN, and many more. But his real passion is for music, both rapping and producing, and he's recently started managing performing artists. He has a crazy diverse group of talented friends, and they're always looking to expand their circle. We say every day, we just want to make dope shit with dope peoples. And so I'd like to give a huge thank you to Gary for coming on. I cannot wait to hear your story. I read your, as I told you before, I read your about section, and I mean, it was just kind of the honest thing. And you were like, I've got crazy shit. And I was like, I got to have him on my show. It is so honest, and that's what I love. So I appreciate you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. And I wrote that before like ChatGPT existed. Now, if I wrote it now, it would sound better. The grammar would be better. But yeah, that was pre-AI. So I kind of just, you know, kept it real, I guess you could say.
Hey, it's honest. I mean, it's better than what AI could produce, so I like it. Um, so you're 44 years old, and you've said from your experience that you've had crazy stuff happen to you over your decade. Go a little bit more into detail about what your childhood was like, and just feel free to introduce yourself to my listeners so they get to know a little bit more about you.
Well, yeah, I just I grew up in Cleveland and I moved to Las Vegas when I was 18. So um, there was a lie in there because that's a little old. I'm 45 now. So, but so I had a birthday in August, so I'm a little older. But I think I grew up in Vegas basically. Got here a week after I turned 18. I've lived here most of my life since 4 or 5 years in LA, and I'm on the road a lot. But I grew up in Cleveland, just a working class neighborhood, and there's poverty around, and there's people just working hard trying to make a buck. There's not much glitz or glamour, and it's got worse throughout the years. But I always wanted to do different things and explore and get out, my comfort zone. So, I ended up in Vegas. I was actually born in Vegas. I moved to Cleveland when I was 2 years old, and then, went through high school there and always had ties to Vegas. My grandparents lived here a lot when I was a kid, so I was getting in a lot of trouble back home, going down the wrong path. And so what happens when you're, going down the wrong path? You move to Las Vegas. So it's kind of the opposite of what most people would do. But drove out here with a couple $100 to my name. My dad dropped me off, said good luck, and the rest is history, I guess you could say. Been a lot of crazy, good and bad times since, but wouldn't trade it for anything.
So when you first moved to Las Vegas at 18, did you have a general idea of what kind of career type that you wanted, or did you just kind of accept any job offer that came along?
I went to UNLV. It was the only school that would accept me pretty much. They at the time, like I guess they took everybody. And I still thought I was a gangster, wanted to be a rapper. I was doing dumb shit and a kid being a kid and not doing anything really the right way. I didn't do very well in school. So I really didn't find my path for some years after getting here. I had a lot of fun. I met a lot of great people. Meeting the great people is what ultimately led to, everything that I've been able to accomplish. I've been in the right place at the right time a few times and met some really good people that have helped me out. And it's kind of like I try to help people out. People have helped me out. I always try to pay it forward. And I think there needs to be more of that these days. A lot of the corporate world that I bump into now is everybody's trying to cut each other's throat and put somebody else down to get ahead instead of trying to rise together. So, that's something I've tried to avoid throughout my career is really like the rat race and just everybody trying to throw each other under the bus or the plausible deniability. No one wants to make decisions anymore or take action because then, something goes wrong, then they're gonna have to answer for it. So I always kind of just did things differently than everybody else, and it's held me back at times, but it's also like helped me get ahead. So I think I never really had a game plan, to be honest. It's always kind of like made it up in the moment, so to speak, and then maybe had a year plan or 2 year plan after that. But I kind of just got to different forks in the road and had to pick, and sometimes I picked the right one and sometimes not. So
But that's usually the best way that how you learn is you have to make that decision. I think people nowadays tend to really go overboard about planning now. It's so when I was growing up, everything had to be planned out. It was from school related. I had to pick like what I wanted to do for my career when I was in high school, when I was a junior. They wanted me to pick a major so that when I went to sign up for college, it was an easy process. But ever since I've gotten out of college, I just kind of go with the flow because really that's the best way you can go now. I got tired of planning because every time I would plan something, it never would come true or something would always alter the schedule and then I'd get mad that the whole schedule is messed up. So I just kind of go with the flow. And that's usually been the best way of living for me and it works. And it
yep,
works for certain people, some people it doesn't. But for me, and I think in this day and age, it is best if you go um on your own and just wake up and be like, okay, I woke up, now what do I do? It's just, it's like planning it. I just plan it all in my head just throughout. So after you had gotten done with college, did you start rapping first?
well, I started doing music young when I was 14. Around there, I grew up in Cleveland, and Bone Thugs and Harmony was very popular or getting popular at the time. So I was lucky enough to open up a couple of shows for them early on before they got really big. And they were kind of, I guess, idols. No one really from our area had been famous that we have seen before. Maybe like a couple athletes, but I don't know if you could tell, but I'm like 5'5" on a good day and not very athletic. So that was kind of not a dream that I had, as a youth. But I always like to perform. I always like to write. I like the words. I write graffiti and paint and draw, and I always like to write. It's something, those cold, cold winters. A lot of time indoors, even when we didn't want to be. So I always wrote and stuff, and I like to perform. So. I started doing that throughout high school and then continued it through college. Um, I ended up working at a record store. For your younger listeners, that's a place that used to sell records and CDs and tapes before they were just all on your phone. And I managed a record store through a good portion of college, and I met some good friends there that I ended up doing music with. They're still good friends of mine now, and I ended up not finishing college. I went for hotel and casino management because this was the best school in the world for that. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So why not do that? But then I was like, this sucks. Like, I don't want to wait on people forever, and like just it was nothing about it like really interested me. So, some of my best friends were in film school that I had met, so I'd help them with their film projects and videos and all the shit they were doing. And like we were told back then, and a lot of people probably still are now, that like that's not an option, a real job. Like you can't make movies, you can't make TV shows, you can't make music. Like, now more than ever with stuff like this podcast or YouTube, or there's so many like outlets now. But I grew up, I didn't have a cell phone till like my junior year of college or sophomore year of college. I had a beeper when I got to Las Vegas. There was no internet. I think like my freshman or sophomore year, I got America Online. Like there was three channels on TV and, cable if you were rich, and I grew up. Wasn't much different than the 50s. The 80s, you had bikes outside, played football, three channels on the TV. Like shit wasn't that much different compared to like from the 80s till now. So, it was never, something we could do, but I had parents that never told me I couldn't do shit, like, they would guide me in, the directions that they thought, but they never said don't dream or don't try that or you can't do that. Like they always were figured it out for me if I couldn't figure it out. And I put them through hell and got in a lot of trouble. And, part of the reason I got my shit together was so they wouldn't have to keep seeing that. But um, yeah, they always backed me up, and if somebody talked shit about my choices, they'd be the first one to tell them to shut the fuck up. So, I think a lot of it came from that. We never had a lot of money, never had a lot of material shit growing up, but had good motivation and love and people that cared and pushed me in the right direction. So I tried to get off that path. I really did. I fucked up as much as you can without permanently, doing it. But something always kept me, a little bit on the straight and narrow.
Well, I have to give you such huge props to your parents. Your parents sound so awesome being able to, even though you've done some stuff in your life, they're still with you 100% of the way. Most kids and most parents now, if their kid does one thing wrong, they cut them off for the rest of their life and they're not with them. So you'd be so blessed to have parents like you did. Your parents sound so awesome.
Yeah,
They
my mom was
raised.
a saint, like she worked at the church. My dad was a gangster, kind of. And so my dad couldn't really say shit because he had been there and done that, but, he had gotten his shit together. And, my mom had, she's a good Catholic Christian woman that forgives and treats people the way she wants to be treated, and if I put her through hell, but, I've won some awards and I've done some pretty, impressive things, quote unquote, but, making her proud is the only shit that really matters at the end of the day. So, as long as I can continue to do that, like I'll be happy with, my choices.
Well, I know they're so proud because, I mean, from the introduction I gave you, you've succeeded in that. You've become a good rapper. You've worked in reality TV. So tell me a little bit about how reality TV kind of became an interest for you.
Well, I was working at that record store and we had about 20 people living in a two-bedroom apartment in the hood in Las Vegas. We didn't even have a front door. Depending on who you ask, why the front door was no longer there, we never really figured that out. We came home one day, it was gone. And
Oh.
yeah, it was crazy. Um, it was you know, there'd just be people that live there all the time that I'd be like, who the fuck's dog is that? Like, oh, that's so and so's kid's dog. I'm like, so and so's kid. Who the fuck is so and so? Like, how is this person here and a kid and a dog? I don't know any of these people. And they'd have to, sometimes people would have to sleep like Tetris on the ground to like fit all in like the living room. And
Right.
it just became like the flop house kind of. We were all, you know, trying to make it in the rap business, and people's cousins and uncles, and someone needed a place to stay. They ended up there, and it wasn't that bad. It sounds probably worse than it was. Had a lot of fun, party maybe a little too much, but we did that for a couple years, and the record store was about to close down, and I was done with college. I dropped out or flunked out, whatever, years before. So I was about to go back home to Cleveland. My grandpa was a barber for like 75 years, from 18 till 93 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, he went into World War II. They told him he's Italian. He better learn how to. They gave him two choices: cook or cut hair? And then they're like, well, you're Italian, you already know how to cook. You better learn how to cut hair. So he opened up a barber shop and he cut hair in Cleveland until he was in his 90s. So he wanted, and my uncle and my cousin all worked with him in the barber shop. So he wanted me to come back and go to barber school, get my shit together. I had some other friends back home that wanted me to come back there and do other things to make money that would have been worse than barbering. But I was kind of at the end. The music thing wasn't working out. Crazy shit. Like I got signed to Death Row Records by Suge Knight himself, and like 3 weeks later, he runs over a parking attendant and just goes to prison. And like it all just went away. And that was like the last straw of like close, like so close to making it or getting a deal. And it's kind of like the platform thing back then. Like if you didn't have a record deal, like you couldn't do shit. Like you couldn't get on the radio, you couldn't get on MTV. There was no way to like be independent. So you had to get somebody to like sign you to one of these deals, and I just couldn't do it. So I was days away from going back home. I was packing up, and one of my friends from my freshman year at UNLV, who I'd remained friends with, he had moved to LA and started working in television. And he called me and said, "Hey man, like I got a job on this Discovery Channel show in Vegas. Can I crash at your place to like figure out, where I'm going to stay when I get back out there?" And he's like a very neurotic person, very neat, proper, like by the book, meticulous. I'm like, you could come here, but like it's going to be your worst fucking nightmare. Like, I'm like, my house is always open, but this place is fucking a mess. So he's like, nah, man, I just, like a week before I start getting paid, because, he's brand new to LA. LA is obviously mad expensive. He's struggling at the beginning of his career. And he's like, I just, don't have enough money to pay for the LA spot. And so
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. So he comes, he's like, fuck, you weren't lying. I'm like, yeah, man, you could just take my room. Like, I'll fucking crash out here. Um, so a couple of days go by, and less than a week away from going home, and he comes back and he's like, "Hey, they fired one of the assistant camera guys today, or he had to leave, and maybe I could get you the job." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know anything about cameras, man. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be nobody's assistant." I was still kind of like chip on my shoulder. He's like, "You be my assistant. Like, you just help like carry some shit, clean the camera, the basic. Sometimes you might have to go get someone's coffee or some shit like that, but it's not really assistant work, which it turned out to be exactly the assistant work sometimes. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, just it doesn't sound good." And he's like, just go, apply, and like we'll see what happens. So I'm like, all right. He's like, well, just like I'll take you in there tomorrow, and you can meet the executive producer. He's like, just dress nice. And I'm like, I don't even got a dress shirt, man. He's like, fuck, okay. So he took me to Burlington Coat Factory, bought me a button-up shirt, um, and I made a fake resume. He's like, don't bring the fake resume. I'm like, I gotta have something, man. He's like, just don't bring it, man. Like it's, and I'm like, nah, like I'll feel better if I bring it. So I bring it, and I meet the guy. His name's Russell, and slide him the resume. He looks at it. He's like, this is all bullshit. And I was like, oh fuck. I'm like, it's not all bullshit. I'm like, that's my name and email address, and it just said email address on there. Like I didn't fill it out properly. He's like, oh, your email address is just email address, huh? And he's like, I know people that worked on this show. You didn't work on that. I'm like, I didn't even know that was a real show. I just made up a title. Like, I don't know. And he was like, you're from Cleveland, I'm like, yeah. He's like, I went to college in Ohio. He's like, are you a Browns fan? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, you suffered enough. I'll give you one shot. I'm like, okay, all right. And then, my buddy Adrian's like, oh, I told you not to bring this fucking resume. You're embarrassing me already. Like, you don't even work here yet. I'm like, sorry, man. And so yeah, so the first day we were shooting, it was a show about Green Valley Ranch Casino here in Vegas for the Discovery Channel called American Casino, where we were going to shoot the behind the scenes from the busboy to the GM to the pool people to the cocktail waitress to the everybody, like just document the inner workings of this casino. Um, so yeah, that's how it started. The first day, we were filming in the sports book, and we set up a time lapse camera in the corner. And he's like, all right, I'm going to take the other camera and I'm going to go shoot some B-roll and stuff. He's like, just stay here. Just don't leave the camera. Like, it's middle of the casino. People break shit, steal, whatever. So hours or so goes by, and I got to pee so bad. And I'm calling, we had walkie-talkies, like security guard walkie-talkies, and I'm calling them, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you got to answer. And he just won't answer. Damn it. And like, from here to where those shoes are back there is where the bathroom was. I'm like, fuck it. So I just run in, pee. I don't even wash my hands or nothing. I run right back out, and there's this big old woman just looking down at the camera, and she's, I think I broke your camera. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like in the corner. Like she had to go all the way there to like be nosy. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I was just trying to see if it was recording me. And I was like, bitch, what do you think it's doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm like, damn it. And the lens is just cracked in half. And here comes Adrian around the corner. He's like, what did you do, man? He's like, you had one job. He's like, you just had to stand there. I'm like, I've been calling you. I've been calling you. He's like, looks, he's like, well, if you turned it on, it'd be a lot better. And I was like, walkie was not on. I'm like, shit. And I'm like, oh man. And I had all the releases from every person on camera in a folder, and there's like the garbage can right there. And I'd set that on the top of the garbage can when I was like trying to fix the camera. And so we grab it and like, all right, well, that's that for the day. And I go and the folder's gone. And I'm like, crap. So we ended up looking into surveillance. And while we're doing that, the maintenance guy comes, takes the folder, throws it in the garbage can, pulls the bag out, and walks away like 2 feet behind me. So I lost all the legal paperwork, broke the camera first day. Yeah.
Well, you know, it could have been a lot worse than that, but I have to give you, I fully understand the struggle with that because when I went to Auburn, I majored in journalism, and one of the classes we had to do was production. So I fully understand like the struggles of production. The thing I hated most was B-roll. That was the
Oh,
worst thing to do because here you are having to take B-roll of just nothing, essentially this uh, nothing. And then here you are with a huge bag. And of course, I feel like when you're doing B-roll for the news, this is different than what I thought. I thought initially that B-roll was you had two people with you doing it, where that someone could help carry bags and then someone could help carry your camera. I had to carry everything by myself. It was like everything had to be on me. I had to set microphones up for interviews I had to do. I had to set up the mic stand, which didn't ever work.
they
It was
never
like
work.
the
They never.
camera stand too for my phone didn't work. Like nothing worked for me. It was just like it was loose, and I thought I'm not breaking any of this stuff because it's expensive, which we only had to use our phones, but everything else was like I didn't pay for it, but it came from the school, and I thought, oh, if I break it, I have to replace it. And I thought, no, I
Yeah.
thought this is the only thing I've not had to pay. I thought we're signing it, and that's it. B-roll was such a pain because people come by and they're like, "What are you doing?" and all this stuff, and you're trying to sit up, and people stare at you too.
Oh, they're all in the way all the time.
It's
Like, stop
so
filming me. I'm like, I'm not filming anywhere near you. I'm shooting at the ocean. Like,
right.
yeah.
It's so frustrating. I likely didn't have experiences, but just the fact of having to sit there and record stuff I did not like the B-rolls part. That was the worst thing to me. It was awful. And then you're trying to think what B-roll would work. Because here I could be talking a story about a new coffee place on campus. Well, there's so much you could film for B-roll for
Yeah.
that. I hated it. So I always have to give people props for B-roll because it was like that's the thing I struggled with the most.
Yeah, I've been attacked by homeless guys. I've almost fallen off mountains. I've broke cameras. Like B-roll has been an adventure. Had Homeland Security chase me off a bridge. Like there's always like adventures on B-roll days. Sometimes they're good. On that show, when we had a B-roll day, it just meant go set the camera up out by the pool and drink all day. So those weren't too bad.
Well,
Sometimes.
you get a reward. See, I was just
Yeah.
doing this for like a class project. I didn't get no drink. It
Yeah.
was just like the most it was the most tedious thing. And but I have to say it was fun. But nowadays when you're doing B-roll in like some places, you get shot just for showing up and it's a
Oh
public
yeah.
place and you're just like I'm like,
Oh
oh
yeah.
I can't
We've definitely had some
I
shit
can't do
before.
this.
Yeah. In like California, they're all like hip to the game. So like you're trying to shoot something and they'll just start mowing their lawn next to you or, working on their car. So you pay them to shut up. or like they'll cause some kind of disturbance. And other places, they're just people, I don't blame them because especially if you're in a small town or something, you don't see it that often. They're just nosy. But at the end of the
Right.
day, it's like you're doing a job. Like if you're, cooking, or, doing something, I wouldn't be in the kitchen. Like, what are you doing? Show me that again. Like getting
Right.
in the, like, it's cool. Like, and I'm polite and stuff, but sometimes it's like, hey, I got to get this shot and get like to the next spot. And you're like, just standing in front of the camera like for an hour,
Yeah.
it's like, some people are, most people are cool though. That's one of the things I've got to, go all over the world and um, I've got to see the differences in people, but I've got to see more that most people are the same, politics, religion, sexual orientation, color, height, all that shit is like not really that important at the end of the day. Like most people just want to be like with the people they care about and like be all right and have food and, a place to stay. And, like most people want the same shit. And it's kind of, you know, frivolous things that we're fighting over. But, people sit down and have a beer or talk about shit. Like most of like the things they hate about other people like kind of go away, I think.
That line was probably the best line I've heard because it's true. We live in such a judgmental society now, and it's judged for everything. I had this conversation with someone on the podcast recently about just how people get offended over everything. Like, I could be doing a project and there could be a multitude of colored stuff on the table. Like for pencils, there could be a red pencil, a green one, like mechanical. I could pick up a green one and someone could go, "Why didn't you pick up the red one?" I thought, why does it matter what color pencil I pick up? Like,
Yeah,
it's
people
like,
find a reason to be upset. There's legitimate reasons to be upset. I don't want to say that there's not, but
mm,
so much of just like trying to find a reason and trying to like find a reason to dislike something or somebody when it has nothing to do with your life or anything at all. And take people's happiness or their rights or their, their ease of life away because of some shit you read or saw on TV or read on Facebook that has nothing to do with anything. I see a lot of that. And, you know, hopefully as we grow as people, I don't know if it's getting better or worse. It depends on who you ask, I guess.
well, also it depends on where you live. See, I live in the deep south and oh, people are so offensive here. So
Yeah, I spent a good
it,
amount of time working in the South and it's different, that's for sure.
have you ever been to Alabama before?
Yeah, I have.
Well, I would say what part, because every
Uh,
part of the state's different. It's
yeah, I was in mostly like the Birmingham area.
yeah, Birmingham is good. There's good spots and bad spots, but it's I don't know if it's gotten better over the years or if it's gotten worse I think it's pretty much been about the same. I live about an hour and a half from Birmingham. I live in a small farm town, so I mean, where cotton and everything's like very popular here. That's kind of where I'm come from.
Yeah, I think, a lot of times people in smaller towns that don't venture out that much, like they never actually get to meet different types of people. So they have just what they've seen or heard. And, a lot of times it's just not accurate, I don't think.
Yeah, growing up, it was always the same group of people I was hung out with growing up, and it was same kinfolk. But then, when I went to Auburn, I met such a variety of people because people from all over the place come to Auburn. I've had people nationally come, and it even have met some international students that have come to Auburn, and it's been just you meet so many more diverse group of people there to where it opens your eyes up a little bit. That's kind of one of the things I liked about it was just the different variety of people that were there and learning their backgrounds. I met someone that lives from India that's came to Auburn to study, and then someone in my journalism classes was from upstate New York or from New York City that came down. So I mean, there's been such a huge diversity.
Yeah, it's
One
cool.
of one of the things that I found fascinating out of your TV career has been you produce shows for the Playboy channel, and I was shocked when I read that because I thought Playboy was a magazine, which it is a magazine. I did not know that they did TV work.
Yeah, they have a channel. Um, it wasn't that crazy, but I had just moved to LA. This was maybe 2007-ish. And I got a call from a friend of mine that I had worked with, previously, and he's a gay guy named Bob, and he calls me, he goes, "I just got this job offer, but like." I feel like I got to give it to you. I'm like, what is it? He's like, it's the Playboy channel. I'm not gonna fucking appreciate it like you will. So he's like, I got another gig. Like maybe, maybe this will work out and you can take it. And I was like, okay, what is it? So it ended up being pretty cool. It was called the Playboy Shootout, and it was 10 photographers and 10 models, and they did all these challenges, and the winning pair got the centerfold. So it's more like photography competition show. There's like some nudity, but it was tasteful. And I was on a mansion in Malibu, and um, that was a pretty short stint. It was just one season, but it was definitely like an adventure. But it was just a funny call. I was like, what are you getting me into? He's like, it's more something you would enjoy than I would. I'm like, what is it? He's like, it's a Playboy channel. I'm like, I'm in. I'm like, I'll do it. I'm like, does it pay money? Is it like, I'm like, I'll do it. But that was an adventure too, because they hired me to do all the interviews with the photographers and the models. And I get there, and there's like a kind of an older, creepy executive producer type guy, and he's like, I'm gonna handle all the interviews. I'm like, okay, because he wanted to hit on the girls. And I'm like, okay. So I sat there like all day, and he was like doing the worst interviews. Like the shit didn't make any sense. Like he wasn't even watching the challenges, so he didn't even know like what to ask them.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck. And I'm like, this is what I'm hired to do. I'm like, am I gonna get like fired on day one? And I was trying to help here and there, and no one really like wanted my
Mm.
help. So the line producer, it's like the money producer, calls me in the office at the end of the day. It's like, yeah, we got kind of an issue. I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, so I forgot the guy's name. He's like, so and so did all the interviews. I'm like, yeah, I know. I took notes on all of them for what it's worth. I tried to interject. He didn't really want to hear what I had to say. Well, he's like, how do you feel about staying late and just redoing all of them? He's like, we'll give you overtime, and we'll let you pick wherever you want to eat for your second meal. But he's like, we like some of the people got eliminated, so they aren't going to come back onto the set. So he's like, we just got to redo it all. He's like, could you do it? I'm like, yeah, I guess so. So I stayed there till like 2 in the morning, just redoing all the interviews. The camera guy was pissed off. All the people are like, I just did the interview about this stuff, but I did them all. I got the first time I ever had Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, which is like a LA staple. I was like, I want Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. They're like, whatever you want, like we'll get it for you. So like ate that with a bunch of playmates, and then got paid double. So it turned out to not be the worst first day. But at one point, halfway through the day, I'm like, shit, like this sucks. Like I'm getting fired. So that turned out to be pretty cool. Um, and yeah, it was just after that, it was kind of nothing crazy. They just did, a water challenge or a fire challenge or a art. They had different kind of themes, and then they would all go, and then like famous photographers and playmates would be like the panel. They would judge, send somebody home each time, and there was a winner at the end. So nothing crazy, but it was a good time and a little bit of adventure, I guess, in there.
It sounds unique. At the time, I can see it being a unique thing. I'm trying to think of like what it sounds like. It sounds like Survivor, but not at the same time. And I'm trying to think of like what modern competition show is on now that kind of falls along these lines. I mean, Naked and Afraid on there, kind
Yeah.
well, depending on
Yeah.
how
Like
many
even like
times
a
or
like a Top Chef or something, like there's people competing
yeah,
and someone goes home.
yeah. Naked and
Top
Afraid probably, but I know they're not naked all the time. It was just kind of like here and there, like you said. So I was like,
Yeah, they would just like be
oh,
topless for like a few minutes during the photo shoot. You know, all my friends
yeah.
were like, "That's gotta be awesome." I'm like, "It's not 300 naked chicks, bro. It's like 10 chicks that are like clothed like most of the time." And like they're not trying to like, hear anything I gotta say really. Um, yeah, so it was everybody was cool. It was definitely a good experience. And it's in a mansion in Malibu, it sucked because it took 2.5 hours to get there every day because of the traffic. That was like probably the only bad part, but um we worked really long hours, so the traffic was gone by the time I got home. So yeah, not
Well,
bad.
that's good. For the show, was it usually all women, or did they have like challenges where it was men against women or anything, or was it all just one race,
The models were all
gender?
women, but the photographers were mixed men and women, more men than women. I think it's still kind of a male dominated profession, or at least it was then. But I think a female photographer ended up winning, if I'm not, or made it towards the end. She was really good. I wasn't doing much photography or camera work at all back then, so um, I didn't know much about it except what kind of looked good and not. But like looking back on some of the techniques and stuff they were using, they're pretty impressive. 'Cause they would throw curveballs at them and different things. So they couldn't use this lens, or you had to do something with just natural light or things like that, where these guys had to get creative, and they usually pulled it off pretty good.
As I'm reading your About Me section, there's just one sentence in here that I'm just like, I, I'm like, is this true? So, is it true that you made a porno with Dennis Rodman and Mark Cuban?
Okay, so that's pretty much true. Um, so
Oh, I gotta hear
um,
this story.
right at the same time, actually, I was doing a show called Geek to Freak with Dennis Rodman, and it was the first show ever broadcast in high definition in America. It was on HD Net, which Mark Cuban owned, and it was the first ever high definition channel that there was. So back to the guy I first interviewed with the fake resume, Russell. He called me and said, "Hey, my wife is about to have a baby in New York, and I got to get the fuck out of here, and I need someone to run this Dennis Rodman show. He's a nightmare, and I can't think of anybody that I'd rather put through hell than you. So you want to do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, that sounds awesome." And it was definitely an adventure. So um the premise was geek to freak. So like one episode they took like a classically trained violinist and turned her into a punk rocker. One was like a chess champion turned into a rapper. They're like kind of weird. One was like a figure skater turned into like a roller derby chick. And one was this scientist kid, like a PhD student from UCLA that they turned into a porn director. Um, and man, it was more than I expected it to be. First, my mom came and visited for the first time, and I was in the back on a phone call, and she was sitting where the secretary of our office usually sat. She was on her break or whatever. So a big box comes delivered for me, and my mom's Italian woman from Cleveland. She's nosy, so she opens it up, and it's just 400 porno DVDs. And like this company that we worked with was like, now it wouldn't be anything crazy, but back then it was like some shit that was like, oh my God, like, it was just like, it was like Big Black Dick's 9 and fucking, like little people on big dick, you could beep that stuff out, but it was like some pretty crazy shit. And just the company was like sending it to like study or something. I don't know. And so my mom she's like, what the hell is this? Like, what are you doing out here? Like, I thought you were working with a basketball player. Like, she's like, she's like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, it's not mine. She's like, it says your name right on there. There's a fucking courier that came here with your name. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, we're gonna do one episode with like some adult stuff, I guess. And, yeah. Um, it went downhill from there with that
Oh,
one. It
that,
didn't get any better.
that might be one of the funniest things. The
Oh,
second you said mom, I said, oh Lord. I
oh
thought, oh
yeah.
Lord. Oh Lord.
Yeah,
I
she
said,
was
I was
just
like,
like,
oh.
yeah. Yeah, she's like, what are
But
you doing? I'm like, it's not me.
the fact that she even said, I thought you were working with a basketball player, and the sad part, you'd have been like, I am.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was a huge pain in the ass, and about every single thing we had to do with him. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how graphic you want me to be on here, but like, it turned out that we did film like a full on porn. It was a girl on girl scene, and the kid was very timid and had to direct it, and it went yeah, it was all bad. I never actually watched it ever because I didn't have HD net because I was poor at the time. And during
Mm,
COVID, I found the DVD for $5 on Amazon, and I ended up finally watching like the show, because after
mm.
it went to get edited and I moved on to something else and I just never saw it. And it's as bad as I remember. It was terrible television. I mean, it was just god awfully produced, and we had no money, and Dennis was just like not cooperative ever, and it was just kind of a train wreck. But that episode was just, man, I'll send you some pictures like that are PG of like on set, and you could see some of the ridiculous stuff. They had them like Barbie dolls, like like do like kind of a storyboard like with the dolls on how he was going to direct them, and it was just like it was so bad, and it was, yeah, it was bad.
So did you end up having to like do like nude scenes where you would see Dennis on camera, or was it even like the
He
star
was
wasn't even in it?
Dennis wasn't like he was directing the director, so he was telling the
Gotcha.
director like, tell her to do this, tell her to do that, whatever. And it was two girls like on a conference room table, like doing what they were doing, and the kid was like afraid to like tell them anything. So Dennis is like,
Right.
"You're the director, like you got to get in there, man." And he like jumps up and like goes face first, like in there, like as part of the thing. And they're like, "Whoa, you can't do that! Like you're not tested, you're not licensed, you can't like participate." Like everyone was like freaking out. And the kid just got this big smile on his face. I'm like, what am I doing with my life right now? Like he just went like right in. He's like, that's not what I meant. He's like, I meant get in there, like direct them, not like face dive. Like, oh man. And like, if you look on the back of the
Oh, bless
DVD, it's
him.
like executive producer Mark Cuban, producer Gary DeFranco, right underneath. I'm like, this is why you'll never be president, Cuban.
Oh, bless him.
But it was
Bless that
crazy. Like I talked
poor
to him every
kid.
day. Yeah, like I called him at the end of every day to give him a report of how the day went. I'm like, oh well, today, Dennis grabbed a Asian PhD student by the ankles and pulled him out of some chick's butt in the middle of a conference room. He's like, what? I'm like,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. He just kind of got a little too involved and had to get kind of pulled out of there. Yeah. He's like, how'd it turn out? I'm like, exactly like I just told you. Fucking, it's something. I don't know. Like,
I'm trying to think. That sounds so 2000s, but yet again, it's like that does no, that doesn't sound like 2000s. I'm like, that should be something the 2000s shouldn't be credited for.
yeah, it's like
It's like,
it was a
because
different time. Like
oh
it seems
man,
like you couldn't get away with any of this stuff now, which is probably a good thing, but he was just, every day we had to do something with him was just something crazy or stupid happened. It's like one of them we had to do the chess champion that became a rapper, and we're at this like club in like on that Sunset Strip, and was terrible at delivering his lines. He couldn't read the cue cards, couldn't remember, like didn't give a shit. So he like got up there and just, hey, I'm Dennis Rodman, blah blah blah, and just messed it all up. Said the kid's name wrong, said the show wrong. And I was like, hey man, like you got to redo that. Like we got to get that clean. It's like, oh, I'm not redoing it. I'm like, dude, you're getting like $80,000 an episode. You have to say like six lines. Like, can you just please like redo it? So he gets up
yeah.
there and he nails it. I'm like, thank God. And he's like, you see the guy in the hat right there, little short guy by the bar? And everyone's like, yeah. He's like, he's buying a shot for everybody in the bar. And there's like 300 people there. He's like,
Oh
Jaeger
Lord.
bombs for everybody on him. And everybody bum rushed the bar and started ordering them. So I'm like, shit. So I called the boss. I was like, yeah, this just happened. He's like, did you get the shots you need? I'm like, yeah. He's like, go out the back door, and no matter how many times they call you, just don't answer. And I was like, okay. So we went out the back door and dove in the minivan with the cast and cameras, and they called 10,000 times. And finally, uh, they made Dennis, send a check or whatever they did. But yeah, that was another good one with him.
Yeah, and for people that don't know who we're talking about, Dennis Rodman was a um, professional basketball player, and Mark Cuban's kind of a financial person. He's most known for being on Shark Tank. You might have seen him as being a host or a judge on Shark Tank. So that's kind of who we're talking about. So you give people a visual of who we're kind of talking about.
Yeah.
So after that best story I've ever heard. I mean, I've heard like good mental health stories. That's just like a good funny story. That
Yeah.
comedy
Yeah.
gold. That
Yeah.
and
Nobody was harmed during the filming of that show, you know.
well, you have to give props for people that are willing to do that. You don't know how many how stumbling over words. Stories. It takes a lot of guts for people to be get that courage to be able to do that on camera. So I mean, you have to give them credit and you have to give them props. And I understand from Dennis's point of view, being mad at the director for not wanting to get up in there and record and stuff, but I get it for it's nerve-wracking. I mean, you've seen on TV and you've heard actors say and actresses that have to fill these huge, even if it's pretty PG sex scenes, that it's really uncomfortable. That it gets very uncomfortable with people in the studio watching you and being able to just watch everything that's going on. So you have to understand that it is uncomfortable at one point, but it is a thing where if you're a director, you need to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
get
It
in there and get
was
it done. Because
it was awkward.
the quicker you get it filmed and done, the quicker you're out of there, and the less time it's uncomfortable. So I get from both sides, honestly, for just from being like a learning how news and directors and stuff and all that how that works. I get both sides, but yeah, I everyone on the show really deserves credit for just having to do that. Um,
Yeah, it did good for some of the people, like the rapper kid and like the violin chick. Like they were able to like kind of come out of their shell a little bit and like have a little fun, and it was like, more wholesome. Like the one chick played with like a punk band on like at the Whiskey on the Sunset Strip, and like that was cool for her. And the chess kid was actually a good rapper. Like put stuff together, and um, like turned out pretty good. So like in the figure skater chick that did the roller derby, she had a good time, didn't get hurt or anything. So like it was mostly all good. And it was just one like a couple awkward moments, and like that was definitely the most awkward. Um, and we had a pie eating contest on one of the other ones, and we sent the production assistant out to get 50 pies. She sent them up, and it's at this park. And she comes up like after all set up, she's like, I just got a question. I was like, yeah. She's like, where are we gonna cook all these at? I'm like, what do you mean cook them all? She's like, well, they're all frozen. I'm like, why the fuck are they all frozen? She's like, well, they were cheaper. And I'm like, well, what? Like, you know where you're going with them and you know what we're gonna do. Like, why are you asking me now? I'm like, we can't cook them. Like, she's like, the regular ones were twice as much. I'm like, is it your money? Like, why? What are you? And she's like, I went to 7 different places to get enough. I'm like, oh God. Like, and we had him for 8 hours a day, but the clock started at his call time, not when he got there. So he got there 4 hours late every day. So we really only had him for like 4 hours. And I got 50 frozen, Sara Lee pies piled up in this park. And he was just hoping like we didn't have enough time so he can just be like, oh, we're gonna have to do another day, and that's $16,000 or whatever his extra day fee was. I'm like crap, but we pulled it off somehow. But I'm like, oh, so one question, where are we gonna cook them? I'm like, I don't what like
I'm surprised he didn't get like in trouble for this because you hear stories about how actors and well, he's not, technically not even an actor, a basketball player. You hear all these, I'll say celeb stories. What does it say that? Have how people are so difficult to work with. I'm surprised that he didn't like get any kind of trouble of wasting people's time and wasting money for this. I mean, I know if he if someone had gone out and bought 50 different kinds of pies, that'd be so much money going down the drain. And the studio can only give so much money. That's why there's on shows called a budget.
yeah,
You
and this
have
was no
to
studio. This was like a very mom and pop, like small, like 3 people worked at this production company. It was like that was
right.
most of the budget for the whole episode, pretty much.
So here you have this independent, because that's usually what it is. Independent. It's not. They don't work for a huge company. They don't work and distribute this to huge studios. It's family owned, independent budget, and sometimes they can't even afford $1,000 because that's just how much they can offer. I mean, if you look back at movies back in like the 60s and 70s, they're not worth $150 million. They're probably like 10, 20,000 bucks.
Yep. That's about how much that show was budgeted for each. After his huge fee, it was probably 20 grand or so, like for the, each episode. So, but we figured out a,
From
a way to make it work.
from the people that starred on the show and did all these challenges, do you know or have any updates on like if they've have had successful careers, or did they do it and kind of just stay out of the mainstream?
Yeah, the rapper kid, I kept tabs on him till maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And um he was working in a corporate job, successful kid. Still playing chess and stuff. The rest I'm interested now. I'll probably look them up, but they're all, I think, on the right path. They're probably doing pretty good.
For that to be kind of like a good mainstream first start job, I mean, I really do hope that they did have successful careers after that. After doing that, I know if I went through that, it'd be like successful for me because I've been like, this is my first gig. But um, if they're listening, which if they are, hello, we're talking shit about y'all, but we're just talking about y'all's show. Um, I hope y'all are doing good, and if you're listening, proud of y'all for going through that. So after you had done reality TV, um, nowadays, have you kind of started focusing more on just everyday life? Do you still do reality TV work, and do you still do music? So what do you do now for as a living?
So I do some, I guess, reality TV. I still, so during that whole time, um, my main job, from like 2004 till like 2 years ago, was with the Ultimate Fighter, which was the reality show for the UFC. So that kind of the same company that did the casino show ended up doing that show, but that would only film like, you know 6 weeks out of the year, two times. So basically, like 12 weeks out of the year, we would film that show. And some years only once. So I was always a freelancer technically. So I would do that show and some other UFC stuff, but then I would have to fill out the rest of the year with, random shows like, this Dennis Rodman show or the Playboy channel or a bunch of other stuff. So, um, the UFC one was much different. And then I've always done different shows for them. So, they have a contender series, which is every Tuesday. They have 5 fights. And if you win impressively, then you get a contract to go into the UFC. And they have a show called Next Level that is paired with that. So if somebody wins the contract, we fly home wherever they go with them, and get like their welcome home party and like see them like, where they live, get to know them a little, and then start training for their first UFC fight. So we'll come home with them a few days and then go back to their hometown a couple times before their fight to like check in on them. Um, so that show's pretty cool. And so I'll do that show sometimes. Um, and then I own part of a mixed martial arts organization in Colombia called Empire MMA. So we're shooting a docu-series along with having the fights down there. I work for another promotion called Dirty Boxing, which is in Miami, which is owned by Mike Perry and John Jones. We just had our third show last week. Um, so there's a lot of like programming around that I do as well. And then I do a lot of car related stuff. In the middle of all that other stuff, I was doing a show called Street Outlaws for the Discovery Channel for like 7 or 8 years, which is a street racing show. Um, so I still do stuff with that. And yeah, I'm always just trying to, stay busy. I do a lot of commercials and stuff with AI now and a lot of content type stuff as well, because that's just everywhere. So um, it's pretty. It was kind of one thing for a while with the reality TV, but obviously doing different types. But now I'm all over the place. I might be doing website and some graphic design stuff today, and filming an interview tomorrow, and filming a fight the next day, and you know, you never know. So it's it's good and bad, like I'm not really good with like boring, mundane 9 to 5 stuff, but like a little more of that would probably be good sometimes, but you know, kind of just going with the flow.
Well, I think it's just an interesting thing that you do. I mean, you work for multiple companies, and I know that there's a lot of hard work that goes into these production type shows. I mean, technically, it is like working a 9 to 5 job, but it's something that you enjoy doing. And a lot of people that work 9 to 5 jobs, and even some people that do passionate jobs, are not, they don't really like doing it. But for you to be able to like it and you're doing all this work, I think is something that a lot of people wish to have. And like for me, for instance, when I did podcasting, I thought I did this as a hobby. I did not expect this to be a full-time job. But once I got on Podmatch and had got reached out by the founder, and he started was like, yeah, it's like a job opportunity that you can do, like we pay you and stuff. I was like, oh, what? and,
Nice.
and so I get like a little bit of a paycheck, and it's not, it's it's enough work to where it's a lot of work, but I love doing it. I've told people that if I end up being a podcaster, I'd be fine with it. I wouldn't be mad about this passion, and that I wouldn't be mad at going down this road. And it kind of goes back to what you said earlier about I do get a lot of head turns when I say podcasting because like you had mentioned earlier, people are think, oh well, that's not a real job. That's not an accurate 9 to 5 job. And to some people it'll be hard to kind of ingrain that into their heads of, well, it is a job. Because my definition is if you get a paycheck, it's a job.
Yeah, it's just a $10 billion industry. Nothing really, like that's people that don't like their job and they think like a job is something you have to dislike. And the minute you like it, people want to. And I have family members that say this to me, say, when are you going to get a real job? I'm like, I got Emmy nominations. Like, what else do you want me to do? Like I work every day. I haven't had a day off in 20 years. I haven't gone to a class reunion. I missed most of my friends' weddings. I miss funerals. Like, I work all the time. Like, it's
Right.
definitely a job. Most of the time I like it. A lot of times I
Mhm.
don't, but anything you do all the time, there's going to be things you don't like about it. But at the end of the day,
Right.
like you're right. You're working and getting an honest paycheck. That's a job, like, and people just don't get it. It's a lot of people never had a dream or gave up on them, early on or, get stuck in a rut and they never get out of it. I think like I always say like being okay is like the worst place to be. Like if you're fucked, you're gonna figure out a way to like get out of that. If you're doing great, you don't have a problem. But like if you're just coasting, like all of a sudden 20, 30 years go by and like you didn't live life really, like worked for the weekends, you got home and vegged out and stared at the TV for 3 hours before you went to bed and
Right.
never really go anywhere. And like for some people that's what they want to do. For me, like maybe when I'm a little older, but for me, like just it's kind of just even Steven. It's just not, I'd rather risk it. And, it's led to like some rough times for sure, especially earlier on. And, when I started my own business and, started like, when you have employees and you're, like the pie day, right? Like if that's your own company, like you gotta, pun intended, eat that 50 pies that, that might have been all the profit you're going to make off that episode. And like now that's one episode that, and then the next one, you end up having to do an extra shoot day because it rains or something, weird happens or, you know, something happens with the memory card or, like whatever, the network didn't like that episode and they want you to do reshoots and the profits
Yeah.
go away and, like it's rough to get like the ball rolling, but you know, the other option is to like have someone telling you what to do every day for the rest of your life. And, that's not great either. So, yeah.
Every job has its positives and negatives. There's never going to be a job or something that you do that it's going to be positive everything. There's going to be something that you're going to, like you said, bad days and good days. And that's just how life is. You're going to have, even if you're not working, you're going to wake up and just have a good day, and then you can wake up the next night and it'll be bad. That's just
Yep.
kind of how life is, and that's kind of how working is. I mean, I've had some critiques and some bad days with podcasting when it's from editing something takes forever, or I've had technical problems. I mean, those are more of the frustrating days, but then some of the fun days are like doing this interview, posting it and promoting it. That's been more of the fun stuff about podcasting, is meeting people like you and having their story shared on here. That's to me the best part. Is, I mean, every job's going to have positives and negatives, but you kind of have to, you just try to make the best of it. You know,
Yeah, the
it's
technical stuff's gonna come. Like, I don't care if you have a 100-man crew and $100 million movie or you have your own podcast, like the mic just ain't gonna work one day for no reason. It like the internet's gonna go down, and, like something's gonna happen, you know. It's just you gotta like, okay, shit. Hopefully like you figure it out, and you go on to the next one. But that's the most frustrating when you've tested everything twice, you're all set up, you're feeling good, and then shit just doesn't work. You're like, oh no, like what do I do? Yeah, it's happened, a lot, but you know, most people understand, like, hey, let's redo this later, or like gotta figure something out. Everyone's been there. And we're so dependent on this technology now. Like it goes bad and we don't know what to do with ourselves.
right. Yeah, 100%. It's gotten a little out of control, but that's how what everything runs on now is technology. It's
Yeah.
like I remember sometimes when the internet was down at school, we're like, oh, well, we're going home, no
Yeah.
class.
I remember having to get an email address in a class and I was so pissed. I was like, what do I need an email address for? They're like, we're going to email you your assignments. I'm like, what the fuck? Just tell me what it is right here. Why you got to email me that shit? And I remember having to like walk across campus to the library and like wait in line to like check my AOL email account to like download 12 questions that took an hour to download and print out with the little like things on the side of the printer that you had to rip off. I'm like,
uh,
no one's ever going to need this email bullshit. I'm like, now cut to like we're married to this thing, like I probably got 300 emails are sitting here. It's like people don't like they have access to you at all time. I think that's the part that sucks. It's like, hey, like I worked all day, but like they have a question or something, they're gonna blow you up till you answer. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is. It's like super important for them, but maybe not. It's like it's hard to just turn it off. You used to be able to drive home. That's it. You didn't have to worry about work that much till the next day, till you got there. And then the answering machine came. And now, okay, now they can leave you a message. That's one step closer. Like now, pager. Now they could page you. And like, oh, now the cell phone. Like they expect you to be available at all times. Like, the me
yeah,
time and the freedom time is like, you know, it's hard to figure out a way to like get that in there, I think. But that's what more people need to do that.
yeah, because I've always said self-care, you need to have one every now and then because
Yeah.
they're really beneficial. What's
Yeah,
been
it's
some of the best advice you've received from past colleagues to just everyday people that you give to people that are maybe someone's listening that's wanting to be a rapper, they want to get into production and they want to maybe run and work at multiple businesses. What advice have you received that you would like to share with my listeners on how they could start starting their career off today?
well, the music thing's kind of for me, I when I started doing TV, I quit music completely for a long time. And I was like, I can't have one foot in and one foot out. And I didn't until start doing music again until COVID. So it was 18 years or something. And when I got back into it, I was just like, I don't care about money. I don't want to make money from this because I had all the pressure on me at the beginning. Like, I have to make money doing this thing that I love to do. And it kind of ruined it. Like a lot of times people say, like, find the thing you love, make it your job. You never work a day in your life could happen, or you could hate the thing that you love. And, with music, especially stuff like that, like it's so subjective and someone's got to be like, your shit sucks, do it different, and you're like, well, like, I don't want to do it different. Like, it's art. So that part, I would say, like, if you're going to make art your job, you have to like figure out a way to like have a thick skin or like figure out a way to like not have people critique it because when people are telling you your art sucks every day or you need to change it, that gets to people, and I've seen it from directors and actors and rappers and singers and especially when there's some corporate person that doesn't know shit and they just, they think they know or they just want you to sound like the next person because they're popular at the time and I'm nowhere near Eminem's caliber or whatever, but when he was very popular is when I was trying to do music and everybody's like, you need to just be like Eminem. You just sound like him, just do what he's doing. And like, you could be the next one. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. No offense. Not like he's bad. Just, he's not me. I don't sound like him. I don't look like him. I don't, just because we were white guys, like they're like, you need to be the next whatever. And a lot of music now, it's like somebody comes out, they're popular, and like every label wants to get their Travis Scott or their, Blink 182 or their Maroon 5 or like whatever it is, or like, I'd say like that might get you somewhere. It might get you money short term, but like it's fleeting, and you're gonna be stuck being like a wannabe or like a carbon copy. Like you gotta just be true to yourself and like you'll find a way if you just don't give up. Like that's really like the best advice I could give. Like Jay-Z said it, not to me, but he said like the genius thing that I did was I just didn't give up. And like at the end of the day, like a lot of people are if I would have went home a week earlier, I would have been selling dope and trying to go to barber school, like that shit, a lot of my friends didn't make it, and like that I was 1 week away from like that being like my path, and it's crazy how like to think about like just one person, and like also like I guess like don't be afraid to ask for help and don't be afraid to take it because pride is like kills more shit than anything. I was at the time I didn't want somebody to have to buy me a dress shirt. I didn't want to be somebody's assistant. Like I'm a fucking gangster. Like I don't get somebody's coffee for them. Like, and I had to swallow my pride and most people treated me pretty well. So like it wasn't anything crazy, but you know, I had to do that to work to get to, to the spots I was in. But at the end of the day, I think like the golden rule is just don't be an asshole. Just whatever you're doing, you're going to pass the same people on the way up as you pass on the way down. You're stepping on people trying to cut their grass and, you know, make them look bad and whatever. Like those people are going to probably be your boss at some point or in a position to like affect your life. So if you're cool with people, all the time, they're going to remember that. And if you're not, they'll remember that even more. So, I've seen a lot of that happen, especially lately with everything get mixed up, and a lot of the old executives have been, dethroned, so to speak, as the younger people are coming up. And, if they were real shitty to people, they're not having a good life right now because these younger people that they treated really bad are like the bosses, or they're at the networks now, or they're making decisions and like, oh, hey, remember me? You fucking threw a sandwich at me because, you said no onions and it had onions. Now I get to decide if we buy your show here or not, and we're gonna pass. Like, so I think at the end of the day, like Clint Eastwood also, like, I'm all over the place, but Clint Eastwood also had a quote that said, I was successful for 60 years in Hollywood because one thing, I found the best people I could find and I got the fuck out of their way. And I guess that's another thing. You got to trust the people that you hire, put people in a position to succeed and just don't micromanage them too much. I think that's, you know, I think, shit, I got a lot of advice from a lot of good people. I was blessed a lot to work with, you know, all the way, working with Dana White, who, a lot of people know is the president of the UFC, and sometimes he gets a bad rap, for different things. But the guy's brutally honest, and he's not gonna be politically correct, or he's not gonna play the game, like he's just gonna do what he thinks is right in the situation. And sometimes like someone gets fucked over or thinks they do in that moment, but most of the time, like that's not really the case. Just like you know, I'm going to do what I think's right, and he admits when he's wrong for the most part that I've seen, but you got to kind of make a decision and stick to it. And, I think seeing the way that he did things outside of the box and didn't put on the suit and tie and do things like corporate people normally do. I think like that's somebody that I looked up to as well.
Well, I think that everything you said was such great advice, and I really do hope that people that listen take that advice because it's honestly some of the best advice you'll get. That you really do have to kind of. He made a good point, and this is something I've secretly have thought that I'm glad you made the point where people that really get treated really badly, that if they say you're like growing up in school and you had bullies that treated you really badly and they were just downright cruel to you, you never know. There might be a day where you actually will turn around, right around and be their boss and that you'll be over them. And it's such a rewarding thing to kind of have payback to them. Um, but really, everything that Gary just said, it's great advice. I mean, it's don't give up. It's the main thing I always say: don't give up. It takes time, but the amount of work you put in determines the process and determines the longevity of how long you want to keep that up. So it's it really honestly comes down to you of how much work you want to put in. I mean, but just never give up. And I know that a lot of people. I appreciate you for coming on too today and sharing this because it's such a this was more of a funny interview, but there's I know a lot of people that are going to feel inspired that you started out really from nothing. You moved to Las Vegas when you were 18. It kind of wasn't sure what you wanted to do, and then finally was able to get like a your friend made you basically break out. It was just like you had a breakthrough, and now you've gone and worked on multiple reality shows. You've worked for UFC. You've worked with some celebrities on multiple channels, and now you do rapping as well, and as well as help people that are up and coming. So I mean, you've done a really good turnaround in your life that I know a lot of people that are struggling right now are going to look up to and feel very impactful for it. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I know someone out there will be so grateful for it. So I appreciate you for coming on.
I had a good time, and I think you mentioned the bully thing, and as I've got older, I remember the bullies, and I've seen them, and like they're never successful at the end of the day. They might be the guy in high school, the guy at your job when you're working at McDonald's as a kid, and the assistant manager thinks he's funny or whatever the case may be. But if you have that mentality, like, you know, a lot of kids think high school's everything, and like, unfortunately, like kids like take their own lives and shit because of bullies, and because they can't see like 2 more years I'm out of this. I'm never going to see this asshole again. It's their whole life. And like I've seen it, and it, I think that you got to just kind of, and also like we were talking about not being able to like get away from the phone and everything. When we were kids, like someone picked on you, like at least you got to go home. Now they're on social media and they're, like they could harass you wherever, but
Yeah,
you got to just get through that shit because a year or two later, you're never going to see that asshole again. And that dude is going to at some point be pumping your gas or cutting your grass. And,
right.
you can do whatever the fuck you want, with your life. And also, like, there's a website called moving.com. And if you sign people up for that, people will call them forever and they will never stop calling them. So every now and then, if you got a bully, you just sign them up for moving.com. Say they're moving like a 5-bedroom house across the country with priceless antiques, and movers will bid for that job and they will call you every day and they won't stop. So, I'm not like go get revenge in like a violent way, but moving.com, maybe set an alarm every once a month to sign them back up again. Not saying I do that to anybody, but 6 or 7 people that, are gonna probably hear this and be like, shit. But yeah, nothing crazy. It's free. Takes 10 minutes and yeah, moving.com.
Wait, where was this when I was in high school? I 100% would have done that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's also
I,
poopsenders.com, but that's expensive. It's $60 for the 3-pack, which is gorilla, cow, and elephant dung in a pail. It used to be
oh
called
my
shitsenders.com, but now it's called poopsenders.com. Yeah.
Shit Cinders was a great, better name.
It definitely
Mm.
was. I when I discovered that, I remember having a meeting with my financial advisor at the end of the year and him being like, "What is this charge?" It was like $900 that year, I think, or something. He's like, "You spent $900 mailing people shit in the mail." I was like, I kind of got addicted to it for a little bit.
Now, we're not promoting you to do this, but
Yeah. Yeah, because it's way too expensive, $60. You could
if you
actually have
want,
like, yeah, do
it's
something
like if you
else.
want to spend money on that and also sign up for moving, you didn't hear it from us. We didn't say that,
Yeah.
but um, if people would like to follow you and because I know that they could have questions that are beyond me because I don't have anything. If people would like to reach out to you and if they have questions that they would personally like to maybe ask you, where's the best place they can find you at? And feel free to promote anything that you got going on.
Uh, Instagram's probably the best. Just my name, Gary DeFranco, and then 147 at the end. There's 146 other Gary DeFrancos apparently. So 147. Uh, no, but yeah, I don't always get back to everybody that quickly, but I will get back to anybody that, has any questions and stuff like that. I'm always down to, give my 2 cents on whatever the case may be. And Max Glow Media is my company, maxglowmedia.com. You go there, and I'd say um, the final advice for anybody would be AI is going to take over the world. It already is. If you're young, if you don't know what to do with your life, like figure out how to make AI do shit that will help other people do what they're doing now. And I think like it is, it is going to be ingrained in everything that we do, and a lot of people are fighting against it right now. And I don't want to use it for X, Y, and Z, but there's a way to use it that will simplify something in your life. And I think that, like everything, it's good and bad. Like it might turn out to be Terminator 2, and we might be all fucked. But for now, like it'll help you like do a lot of chores and things that are tedious. So I think AI is going to take over everything, and
Yeah.
just kind of like got to figure out where the morality of everything lies and like how that's going to work. But um, I think it's going to be crazy. We're seeing a big shift in, there's like when the computer and the internet came out was probably like the biggest one of our lifetime. And now AI is
Mm.
going to be the next thing that like really changes the course of our lives and, daily things that we do. So
Yeah, for me personally, COVID and AI have been from from my generation have been probably the two biggest things to happen. AI, especially since COVID kind of isn't really as severe as it was. AI though is really taken off in like the past 2 years. I mean, when I went to Auburn, it blew up like that. Um, so as I always will do with my guests, I'll put his Instagram as well as his website company down below. If you feel free to, if you would like to follow him and keep up to date with what he's got going on, and if you would like to learn more about him, I'll put his links down there. You can follow me on social media as well. Instagram, TikTok, it's Lethal Venom Podcast on there. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, it's Noah's Podcast. And feel free to also follow the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. It's Lethal Venom. It's available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora. It's basically essentially everywhere you get podcasts. So feel free to follow the show if you would like to keep updates of new episodes and the social media for behind the scenes stuff as well. You don't have to, but if you just would like to keep up. Um, Again, a huge thank you to Gary for being on here and sharing me his story. It was very great, man. Thank you for so much for coming on.
I appreciate it. I have one question for you. How'd you get the name for the podcast? Where did the lethal venom come from?
So when I first started podcasting, I took a podcasting class because Auburn had actually introduced this new podcasting class that was they were starting it up, and was able to be one of the first students, I guess, to be in it. And one of the assignments that we had to do was pitch an idea for a podcast show. Well, I'm a huge avid reader. I like to read, and so at the time, I just really started getting back into reading. So I came up with a book podcast and pitched that. But in the middle of it, Lethal Venom kind of came about. And I wanted the show to be more of a variety based. I didn't want it to have kind of a particular topic. Like I didn't want it to be fully on movies. I didn't want it to be fully on crafts, and so I wanted it to be kind of sporadic. It was kind of you didn't know what I was going to post. And so the name, I thought for a long time what a good name would be for it. And I thought, well, it's a truthful podcast. I mean, honestly, if you've heard some episodes, I've said the honest truth, and I've had some people come on here and they've just flat out said it like it is, and that's the whole point of the show. And so I put venom or poison in because I thought, well, the truth hurts sometimes, and venom and poison's lethal to people, so it was kind of a play on those kind of words. Well, the singular word was taken because someone else had already had that name, so I tried the plural name and said that was stolen. I thought, so I put lethal in front of it because I thought, well, it's kind of the same thing, and it wasn't taken, and I said claim.
That's a
Claim
cool
it.
name. Yeah, it's
And
definitely a cool name. It's memorable.
so I put lethal venom in, and it wasn't a podcast that was taken. There was no name similar to that, and I just kind of ran with it. I quickly claimed it, like on the podcast sites. I made sure that no one else could take it. It was which of course I had to do some more look into it and make sure there wasn't a podcast with the name, and didn't find one. So I was like, then lethal venom it is. And so that's kind of how the name came to be. But it's kind of how the truth hurts, and venom and poison's lethal. So that's kind of where it comes from. Kind of gives like a badass name too, which I like.
And I dig it. It looks like an album cover, so it's definitely cool artwork.
Well, I appreciate you so much for asking that, because it's one of my favorite things to tell. So I appreciate you for asking that. But um to my listeners, I hope y'all really have enjoyed today's episode. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been a really good one. It's been probably one of my favorites I've done. I'll say it. It's one of my favorites. But Gary, you're more than welcome to come back on anytime. If you would like to come on, if you have some future assignment that you'd like to do or promote, feel free to reach out and be back on. I'd be more than happy to have you back on. It was a pleasure having you on here.
I definitely will be back, and I definitely had a good time. I think I'm always telling other people's stories, so like every now and then I get to tell my own story. Like it's pretty cool, so I appreciate the opportunity.
You're more than welcome, and um, thank you to all of my listeners for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your day and week, and be safe out there. Make good decisions, and send shit to people. Well, that being said, I will catch y'all on the next episode of Lethal Venom. Y'all take care.